Well, it goes back to Bill Apter. I don't know if you, of course, you guys know him, but I don't know how many wrestling fans know Bill Apter. I mean, Bill Apter goes back way before all of us. He was in the wrestling magazine business, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, and all of those. I think at one time they put out about 5 titles out of the company that he worked at in New York, and the great thing about Bill was, I don't know how, I think I just started sending him some stuff, and I didn't realize that he was always excited to get photographs and stories from other territories around the country, because all they were able to do on their budget was just cover the Northeast, cover right up there in the WWE territory, or Vince's territory at Vince Sr. And so I would send him pictures every week, and he would call me up and say, "Man, keep sending me stuff." He said, "I'll put anything you send me." And that was really a major way that I got myself known around the country, because, you know, back in the territory days, you were only seen in your territory on your local TVs and that sort of stuff. So I would send pictures about our matches up to Bill, and Bill would put them in Pro Wrestling Illustrated. And we all know in those days, I mean, if you were in the wrestling magazine, you were as big as, I mean, you know, I mean, if I'm in the story right beside Bruno Sammartino or something, the people didn't know the difference. You're all big stars if you're in the wrestling magazine. So anyway, we got Andre, Vince Sr. sent Andre down to our territory. You know how they used to send him down to each territory for like a week, and somebody would drive him around the territory, and he'd work. Like in our territory, we worked Memphis on Monday and Louisville on Tuesday and Evansville Wednesday, and through the week, and then he'd fly back out. So on Tuesday night in Louisville, Kentucky, we had a match, and naturally, you know, nobody beat Andre, but he did somehow. I think Jerry Jarrett asked him if he would go for a count out. And I think we had Sam Bass there as my manager or something. But anyway, we did a thing where Andre and I fought out onto the floor, and we're fighting back and forth. And I rolled back in the ring, and as Andre started back in the ring, Sam, I believe, grabbed his foot from underneath, and so he couldn't make the count. So I got the count out victory. Well, I sent the pictures. I sent all the pictures of the score in to Bill Apter, right? The next day, I mean, I sent them right in. So Bill calls me up after he got the pictures. He said, "Oh my gosh, these are great pictures." And he says, "There's such a size difference in the two of you guys." He said, "I want to write a story, you know, talking that you got the victory, but do you mind if I refer to you as a midget?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, I wanted to put the title on the front page of the magazine, 'The Night a Midget Beat Andre the Giant.'" And I said, "No, whatever you want, Bill, that's fine with me." So sure enough, the next month, man, here it comes out. You know, "The Night a Midget Beat Andre the Giant." Man, great pictures of me and Andre all out there. I mean, it was like the highlight of my career to get that much coverage with the biggest name wrestler in the world in the national magazines. Well, I didn't really even think a thing about it, but then a few months later, it came time for the NWA convention that they had in Las Vegas. And this was like I said, Jerry Jarrett and I were first in business. So it may have been like 1978 or so. And we went to the convention as promoters for the first time ever. And we're sitting in there around all, you know, there's all, like you said, there's Leroy McGurk, and there's Vince McMahon Sr., and there's, Harley Race and Terry Funk are all there, and Paul Bosch, and all the great promoters in the country were sitting in this meeting. And somebody gets up at the podium and says, "Guys, we need to talk about the something that's looming in our future that may really affect the whole business. It may be real detrimental to us." And he said, "We're hearing a lot of word about something that's coming on the horizon called cable television. And I think we all need to be aware of that and how dangerous it could be." And so about that time, Vince McMahon Sr. steps up to the podium, and he says, Jerry and I are sitting about the middle of the pack there and had no idea what he was going to say. And he says, I'm gonna tell you guys something right now. You don't need to worry about cable television. That's not going to be any problem. Here's something that is killing the business, though. This is really hurting the business. And all of a sudden, he reaches down and he pulls up this magazine with me on the cover of it, right? The night a midget beat Andre the Giant. And he said, look at this stuff they're putting in these wrestling magazines. Nobody's ever beat Andre the Giant. This can kill the business by putting out false publicity like this and stories like this. Nobody's ever beat Andre the Giant. And here it says a midget beat Andre the Giant. I mean, he was like he was turning red. He was so mad, right? And I'm trying to slink down in my chair, and Jerry and I are like putting our heads down. And of course, Terry Funk, about 3 rows behind us, he sees us trying to tuck down, and he stands up and he says, well, Vince, who was the little bastard? And so anyway, I think I really may have got completely under the chair at that time. But yeah, me and Terry laughed about that for years and years, man.
And so you wonder why you got put in the ring with Michael Cole at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I think that's still that trickle down philosophy there still worked on me.